Hey guys.
Hi, happy to have you.
So we're just gonna get started now. So thank you all for being here this afternoon and coloring on our wonderful color page, our little activity. And so Alyssa, if you go to the next slide.
Hey guys.
Hello. So today we will be talking about boundaries. So our hashtag for our newsletter was hashtag the power of no. And just some virtual meeting etiquette like usual. So Laura Beth will drop the sign-in link in the chat box. As always, our meeting will be recorded. So in case you want to refresh anything, it will be on our YouTube page, which is new. Mute yourself if you're not speaking, mute your cell phone. You can use the chat box to write in questions or comments at any time. You can hide the video panel to see the PowerPoint more clearly. If you need any mental health support privately, chat Laura Beth because Lauren wasn't able to make the meeting today. And if you're having any issues with the sound, check out the link below. As for our meeting purpose, does someone want to volunteer to read our meeting purpose today? That's all right, I can do it. So today we will identify our personal values. We'll use those values to define our boundaries, and then we will practice setting personal boundaries using various scenarios in a breakout room. So that's a new thing that we are working on doing in our meeting today. And now I will turn it over to Corrine.
Thanks, Catherine. So today, just to start out with a little bit of grounding and intention, our intention for this meeting, as Catherine mentioned, is to identify values and healthy boundaries so that this helps to facilitate communication with others. So let's just take a moment and really arrive here. So if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes or leave them open or cast your eyes down, whichever feels, again, more comfortable for you. And just take a moment and feel your feet on the floor or your seat on the chair or the bed, wherever you're sitting, the touch points, and just take a few deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just take time to arrive. And notice the sounds that are happening around you. Just resting your attention. And then taking a moment just to check in with how you're feeling right now. What is the most present, what's most present right now for you? And just opening and up to whatever that is, letting it be the way it is without trying to change it. Then setting an intention for our time together. Whatever that might be open, it might be present, whatever intention it might be. And then gently open your eyes, come back. And I just wanted to check in for a moment for those of you who may have been here last week with us about hybrid relationships in this time, that trying to really navigate this now normal, and wondering if there were any tools that you used from last week or that you found helpful in terms of how you might have experienced an interaction, or something you started to put into play that you might not have before. You can raise your hand in the- Go ahead.
I started to text my friends whenever I would think of them, because I think previously sometimes they would cross my mind if I saw something that reminded me of an inside joke or something, or that reminded me of them. I wouldn't really reach out and tell them about it, but I think right now it's important to connect to people and like let them know you're thinking of them. So I started to text them more often and just let them know, like, hey, you just crossed my mind, or I hope you're doing well, and things like that.
Awesome. And did you notice how that made you feel?
Yeah, it made me feel good, and it definitely made their day as well. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, hopefully it has like this ripple effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for sharing. Anyone else? Okay, Alyssa, you want to take it away?
Okay. Hi, everyone. So today, like we talked about, we're going to be talking about boundaries. But before we can get into that, we are going to talk about values. So does anyone know what values are or have heard that word before?
Yeah, values, I think to me, they represent some boundaries that I abide by in different interactions. And when I'm abiding by values and when I'm not, they give me some information back about how I'm feeling about my actions and, what I can do in the future to feel a little bit better.
Absolutely. And so our values really, they represent the things that we care about. So these are basically before we get to our word cloud. So basically our values are the things that guide our purpose. They're the kind of ingredient that makes action meaningful. So when you're following your values or you're doing something that lines up with your values, it's what takes something from just being, I'm just going to water a plant, to I care about caring for another life. Or it's something that can take, I like to hang out with my friends versus I like to be a good friend. And it's what is it, what matters to you the most. So to start brainstorming different values, we'll make a word cloud to get started. So what I want to see is kind of what are your values or the things that are important to you, right? These could be caring about friends, family, loved ones, or maybe other things. So we're just going to brainstorm here and then we'll talk about it in a second. So if you want to take out your phone or text this number, then answer these questions. You can send some responses.
Alyssa, can you see my screen
Mm-hmm.
with the poll?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Friends, family, time alone. When we're thinking about values, we can also think about kind of traits that represent, who you are as a person, or like respectfulness is a great example. Good. Authenticity, honesty, compassion. and loving news. Truthfulness, kindness, vulnerability, integrity. Those are the things I want to see in my friends. So while we're letting everyone else finish putting this in, does anyone want to share why any of these things are important to them? Seems like a lot of people wrote down kindness and honesty or respect. Anyone want to share why that's an important thing? Or why it's a value?
One that comes to mind is where I live, a lot of people are very nice, but there's a difference between being nice and being kind, in my opinion. I think there is definitely a level of actual like care and empathy that comes with kindness, with putting yourself past just being the what's the word? The superficial niceness. No.
Absolutely. And I think what you're alluding to, Samantha, is that difference between just something that is a characteristic or a quality versus something that's actually a value, right? It's very easy for me to just say something nice, but then it's another thing to like guide my life in a way to live my values where I am doing it, from a place of kindness, from a place of compassion, from a place where I'm really guiding the way that I'm living my life because of that. So I think that that's a really good point that you made. Does anyone else feel similarly or have another something they want to add to that?
I just wanted to add that I think the reason I've never actually thought about this until now when you brought it up, but I think the reason that I value authenticity in a person is because I think everyone can agree that it's really difficult to be 100% your real self, especially for teens and like in this digital age. It's really difficult because we're kind of always subconsciously afraid of judgment and like criticism from others, and we always want to present the best versions of ourselves, I guess. And so it takes a lot of, I think, courage to be authentic and be yourself. And so I really respect people who are authentic because I know it takes a lot and it doesn't come easy to people. So, yeah.
I think for me, when it comes to a person, like, I'm always looking for things like honesty and like compassion and like those types of things. And like sometimes like we change, like our lives change, but so do other things in us change. So when that change happens, it's best to allow that change to happen and not hold back the change, like let it happen.
Absolutely. And I think those are great perspectives you both offered. So kind of moving forward with once we have some grounding in our values, these are just some examples. So I had us brainstorm before I gave you any options or choices, but maybe when you look at this list, you see some more things that are important to you. So what I want you to do is to take a minute and maybe you have a pen or a paper nearby or something in your phone. And I want you to try to pick 3 most important values off of this list, or you can always add something that we forgot. This is just a small list. It's not everything you could value, but take just a minute or two. Pick just three values. The whole reason and the purpose of picking some values is that having them can be helpful for making decisions or choices or connecting with those around you. So just take a minute here.
Wait, should we type them in the chat? Or I'm sorry, I think I missed the part.
That's okay. So you can, if you'd like to share, if you want to share your top 3 values in the chat. But these are just more for yourself. So it'll be relevant for later for some of our activities we're going to do. But if you'd like to share, I think that's a great idea to put it in the chat. Just take another 45 seconds, minute. If you feel like I'm not even close to figuring them out, maybe take a picture. Come back to it later. Did anybody notice any values on this list that they identified with but never thought about? I know for me, what I thought when I looked at the list was I never really think of like assertiveness as an important value of mine, but I think for me it ends up being something that's really important and guides how I make decisions. So that was something that surprised me. So basically what I want to do here is we're going to do a quick visualization to figure out what kind of guides or doesn't guide your values. So for this visualization, if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can, or if you want to keep them open, that's fine too. But whatever helps you just kind of get into a thinking space. So I want you to imagine this following scenario. So you're sitting in a situation with someone that you really care about. And all of a sudden you notice as they're talking to you that something is not feeling so you can mute yourself.
Real quick, can we just make sure everyone is muting their mic? We're getting a little bit of background noise. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're good now. Perfect. So, okay, so starting back at the top, so I want you to all imagine a situation where you're with a loved one. So I want you to right now pick somebody. Pick someone that you care about and imagine them sitting in front of you. And as they're talking, they're making a request for something that you feel is maybe there's something that's not right about it. You can't figure out exactly what it is. So maybe they're asking for something that's too much or too little, or something that doesn't feel necessarily comfortable. So you imagine, like, how does that feel in your body? So are you feeling like you're kind of sitting back in your seat, you're shifting a little, you're moving side to side? And when you listen to the words that they're saying, the same thing keeps coming up over and over and over again. you just keep feeling like, I'm really mad at this person. I don't understand why they don't respect me. I feel like they're not listening to me. Why do they want me to do this thing? Why are they asking this thing when maybe you've already told them before, or maybe there's something else going on? So just think about how that feels in your body. You open your eyes, and can anyone explain what that feeling feels like?
I call it the ick feeling.
The ick feeling. I love that term.
Hmm.
Can you tell me more about that feeling?
I think it's that sudden gut reaction. It's something that's really hard to describe, but you feel it, and it can be pretty powerful. So I call it the ick feeling.
I love that.
Hmm.
I see it kind of visually. I forget what that game is called, but it's like these little different shaped blocks, and they're all going downwards, and you try to like fit as many as you can at the bottom. That makes no sense, but
Like the Russian dolls that you stack.
no. It's like, is it Tetris? Oh no,
Oh, Tetris. Okay, yeah.
maybe it is. I don't know. Whatever. So basically, like your friendship with that person has always kind of aligned perfectly, I guess, and there was always balance. But then in that moment, the pieces aren't fitting in quite as perfectly as they were before, and they're kind of like lodged at like weird angles or whatever, so it feels uncomfortable.
Does anyone want to add to that?
Well, I don't like have that much of a description, but I think my whole body just got really tense at the idea of it. Like almost like I didn't want to respond or react because I didn't know how the right way to react with that would be. And it just felt like I kind of froze.
I feel like I feel like sometimes we don't know how to react to situations, and it's like really hard to sometimes, even though a situation may be easy to solve, or if it's like really hard, I think you have to think before you speak or do something, because when you don't think or speak, you might do the wrong thing. And sometimes like it's hard to respond to a situation or a question that somebody has that's really hard to answer. So I think it's hard to respond back to what people say sometimes, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so this ick feeling, usually what that does is that's an alert to our body. It's letting us know that something is not right. And so one thing that can often happen is that might be a signal that there's a misalignment in values, or as we'll get to in a second, in boundaries. But when you notice that these things are happening, or you have that ick feeling, you can use your values to make decisions about what's right for you in each moment or situation. So in that situation where you're feeling like something's not right, you can draw from your values to help you make a better decision. So if someone's asking for something, that they're making a request that doesn't feel right, maybe you say, you know, it's really important that you be honest with me. Maybe if you're feeling that they're not being upfront, or, you know, I really value communication and I feel like this kind of came out of nowhere. And it gives you tools to better have these conversations, or to make a decision of, you know, I'm going to say no because that's not really important to me. And they really help us to guide a more authentic and honest life. So just important to keep these in mind as we move forward to talk about our boundaries. And I'm handing off to Karine.
Thanks, Alyssa. Yeah, and in context of these hybrid social relationships that we're having right now, it's so important to keep awareness about what our values are and what's important to us, and not, because we can even like show up one way on the screen and then do the stop video and have another reaction, right? So it can really help with connection to be able to speak authentically. And the way we do that is through awareness of values. And then, as Alyssa said, boundaries. And I like to think of boundaries as like the check oil light on the car. you know, or the gas tank starts flashing, you know, almost on empty. So we really have to be aware of these things because it's a signal to us that something is amiss, that something really isn't right. And we tend to like dismiss that ick feeling because we don't want to feel the ick feeling. Who wants to feel the ick feeling? And it's really difficult for us to talk about how we're feeling, especially when we're having virtual conversations right now and we can't pick up all, like the eye contact is off because are we looking at the camera? Are we looking at them? So it can be really difficult. But if we can think of it as like a self-care tool, you know, like this is really important to me so that my mental and physical health is better. That might be just like we are going to, you know, put gas in the car and take care of the oil in the car. We have to have boundaries so that we can take care of ourselves.
And I think that there are many ways to stop the boundaries. Like, well, not necessarily the boundaries because boundaries are important, but there is a way to stop that ick feeling from happening. And I think one of the best things somebody could possibly do in order to end that ick feeling is to talk to somebody about your situation, you know? Like say things like, I'm feeling this because this happened, or I want to tell you something because I need your help. So like letting others know how you feel and helping and allowing them to help you through your boundaries is a really good way to let go of that ick feeling.
Excellent. And I didn't pay you to say that because that's what we're going to talk about is really about communication, right? So I just wanted to go over what window of tolerance is right now. So window of tolerance is something we all have. It's where things feel just right. You know, where we're in this Zen place where we're able to deal with like the punches that life might throw at us, you know, but stress and trauma can shrink this. And right now it's stressful being inside a lot of the time. Like, yes, it's a beautiful day. We can go outside, but we can't spend time with our friends and we're not living our lives like we're used to living in a really active way. So this window of tolerance where it normally might be here right now is a lot smaller. And so we can get triggered or activated a lot easier because we're in a time of stress. So it's just something to be aware of. Go ahead to the next slide. And what's really important is just as you all were saying, like this ick feeling, like we can feel if a boundary's been crossed, like by our reaction in our body. So if we can just check in and pause and like notice, oh wow, my heart is racing. I'm breathing really shallow. I might even start to get a headache or my stomach might hurt or I get sweaty palms. Like there's really a lot of things that we can pay attention to that will tell us, oh, a boundary's been crossed, because you might not even know what that boundary is, and that's okay too, right? This is like, can we be curious about what our experience is? Go ahead.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
For values and boundaries, are those just formed through people's like life experiences, or are some people born with their values? Because like I remember learning about something in school, not even in school, we don't learn about this stuff unfortunately, but on my own I was learning about this thing and like where morals come from, and some were saying that ethics, and that some people are born with certain ethics and then other ethical opinions are kind of formed through people's experiences and through life. So like, is that the same with values and boundaries? Or like, why are some boundaries, I mean, obviously everyone is different, but why are some boundaries like really, really different for some people as opposed to other people?
I think,
go ahead.
I think one of the reasons why different values are different is because of our personalities, because it's not just about the values that are outside of us, but the values that are inside of us, right? There's people that are kind, you know, loyal, helpful, those types of things. And so I think that's one of the reasons why it's so different for everybody. And like those differences can change, like I may stick with another one, but then you might have a different one than I do. And that's okay. That's totally fine. We don't have to be the same we don't have to be like the same in order to have different traits and stuff, because we're all different, it's the way we are.
And you touch upon a really important point. The values change over time. So the values that I might have had at 22 are different than what I have at 32 and what I have at 42 and that sort of thing. So, and it can change because of life experience. Like our values can change so if we've had like a loss of a family member or chronic illness, or it could shift our world perspective and our values change. And to get back to your question, Anastasia, how are they formed? Are we born? That's a really good question. And I think that our family has a huge impact on how we're raised, sort of like you said, ethics and morals. And it can also be that, we have felt betrayed at some point in our lives. So then trust is a really big value, or integrity is a big value. So they're changeable. Absolutely. Alyssa, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I was going to add to that. So I think there are also like family or cultural differences too, because I think like right now, like I live in a really rural area, but I was raised in New York. And so my boundaries for like volume and space are, it's okay to be really loud and for people to be really close, and maybe a lot more like physical affection, like hugs and touch. But I have friends or even people in this area who are very uncomfortable with that. And that feels like a real boundary violation if I'm extremely loud or too close, or and that's not because the boundary is not necessarily about me specifically, it's about the person, right? So for me, if someone was too far away, it might maybe be confusing for my values, but it won't cross any boundaries. But still, if somebody's too close to me, wherever I draw that line, so maybe I draw that line here, Corinne draws that line off screen, you can't even see it, depending where it is, you'll know like when the difference between the boundary and the value is like, the value might be, I like people who know where my boundary is and like say just outside of it. And it's harder for me to connect with people who want to be further away, but it doesn't cross my boundaries until they pass that line. Does that help a little bit, Anastasia?
Sorry, my mic just went away. But yeah, that helps. I think I was more like, I completely understand what everyone was saying. I think I was more curious about like as to why our values have such a potent effect on like our physical state, like why we feel our heartbeat increase and why we get sweaty or something. And I don't know, yeah.
So
I guess it's more of like a neuroscience question.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a limbic reaction, right? So it's an emotional brain reaction. It's actually where we'd like to think that we make a lot of our decisions in our cognitive brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, but a lot of the decisions are made from emotion. And so that's how we know that a boundary is crossed is through the limbic system. And does that answer? I hope we're answering it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't want to like waste
time. No. It's you're not the only one in the room. Look, we're going to give you guys, like, this is for you guys. So we want to, honor where your questions are and your curiosity is. So it's not like, oh my gosh, we have to get through this material. We always have next week. So,
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So if we change, does that mean that change can be good or bad, or can it be both? Well, not good or bad, but like, can it be like what if you don't want to change? Like, let's say something bad happens and you're like, uh-oh, this is going to change me really badly. Like, can you go back to the way you used to be before that change happens, or do you have to let that change happen first and then go back?
Well, what do you think, Sophie? I mean, like, let's take the pandemic, right? So
Yeah.
we were all different before the pandemic. I mean, we've all been changed by it. There's no way you haven't been changed, right? So I don't know if that is a good example or if you were thinking of something else.
Well, let's say that you had a really bad boyfriend relationship, like the guy changed you because of who you are. He wanted you to do certain things and you were like,
Or
uh-oh.
trust was broken or something like that.
Yeah, but like I've experienced that. I've experienced like losses and like pain and stuff like that, and that's made me feel like a completely different person. So I feel like I've changed, but I just don't know how I've changed. Like I feel like sometimes we don't know how we change, even when we feel like we changed.
Mm-hmm. And so, Sophia, what I'm gonna say, and please feel free, anyone else, to sort of jump in on this. And I really appreciate you speaking up about this, is that it's okay not to know. It's okay not to have everything figured out. And we have this compulsion and almost obsession with having to figure things out. And the beauty of of life is like the more, and that window of tolerance that we mentioned, like the more that we can sit in this discomfort and like, oh, I don't really know what I'm feeling. Okay, that's okay. But maybe you get a sense of what the physical sensations are in your body. And sometimes that can help inform you. But it's really okay. Like, to me, what I like to say a lot is just to be kind to yourself. Like, when you can't figure it out and you don't know how you're feeling, like, what would you say to a best friend that was feeling the same way? Like, it's okay. I have your back. You'll be able to get through this. We all have hard things, so to start saying those things to yourself might be helpful and supportive. Is that helpful?
And Sophia, I also think like good and bad is so subjective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we say bad and we have such a negative, like, I don't know, there's such negative connotation around that. But sometimes those bad things or those experiences are what make us actually more resilient and as we move forward, because we have that knowledge and experience. So I try to think of it like that. So bad things aren't like, it's just so subjective.
Yeah, they can be like opportunities for growth, and it can sort of be like nails in a chalkboard when somebody says that to me if I've had a negative experience, right? But we're all going through this negative experience and together in different ways, and it is making us more resilient, than people who didn't have to navigate difficulty like this. So, and to try and just be kinder, like Diane was saying, like, it just is. Like, does there need to be a judgment? Can we just be kind and curious rather than judgmental and have this good and bad sense? So, okay.
Thank you for bringing that to the conversation, Sophia, and sharing. Really admire your courage and stability. Also want to acknowledge a comment that we got that people say we're born with values, but I feel like the majority of the time I'm trying to earn value by doing things to gain value. Do you know what creates that feeling?
I feel like I know part of what creates that feeling. I think, like, how sometimes, like, people force you to do things that you don't want to do? Like, sometimes that happens in life, We have, like, trouble doing something because somebody else is telling us to do something that we don't want to do. And so I think sometimes it's okay for you to feel the way you feel, but don't put a grudge on yourself because of what you did. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be sad. Those emotions are completely normal. What's not normal, though, is like just trying to beat up yourself because of what you did. you know, it's okay to do that, but don't be too hard on yourself. Just don't be too hard.
I like how Alyssa responded saying, like, feeling like you have to earn your value might be coming from external pressure. But I guess that's another question that I have is, like, how do you deal with having that external pressure and having other people, like, let's just say you're at school, like, telling you have to be perfect all the time. Like, and something for me is I just try to, like, block that out, like, because it just doesn't
like,
help with, like, your mental health and all that. But I just don't understand how to do that, or like why people just keep thinking they need to say, like, you know, do better at this or that. And part of it might be because they think it themselves and then they take it out on other people or whatever. But I just don't understand why people do that.
I think that like I totally understand what you mean about like others expecting perfectionism from you, and I think that what it takes to get over that or push through it is just change your interpretation of what these people are telling you, because oftentimes, like, I can pretty much guarantee that no one actually expects any of us to be perfect at all. And like I used to think that my parents wanted me to be perfect, and like my sisters thought the same thing, but I think that there was just miscommunication between us two, and I think that the way I was interpreting what they said was as if they were expecting me to be perfect. But I really don't think that anyone has that expectation of any of us. I think that we sometimes take what we hear from others, and our brain like just super quickly changes it almost and alters what they're saying and makes, I don't know, I think it's not even so much external pressure. I think you're putting it, not,
I think that it reflects on yourself, and that like we all put pressure on ourselves.
That pressure more so than people outside.
Yeah.
And I think to add to what you both are saying, and this is a really rich discussion, is Jade, I think what the missing link is actually what boundaries are. So when you're feeling that feeling like, I feel like I have to earn my value, that's likely because someone's crossed your boundaries, because you don't have to earn value. We all come with value. We all are inherently valuable, amazing people that have something to offer. And so when someone's making you feel like that feeling, and I feel like what you're describing is sort of feeling guilty, so you have to work past that guilt or try to earn it back, is that there's probably a boundary violation or a boundary you can put up that will make you feel more comfortable. Because people, again, it's not, you know, the person who's always violating the boundaries fault. It's kind of, you have to also know where your boundaries are and communicate them, so that way you're feeling good there too. So
right, like Alyssa said, you know, guilt, and then there's shame, right? Like it triggers this, something must be wrong with me. And it's like, you know, the event happens, we call it like the second arrow. Like the event happens, which might be a sting or, you know, activates you in some way. And then the second arrow is the one that we start talking badly about ourselves in some way, shape, or form, that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy. So let's talk a little bit more about boundaries. If you want to go to the next slide. Okay, so we need to know how to set them. It's really important, and this is really not an easy thing to do. And I'm wondering, because of time, we may just do this exercise next week, but we'll go over some of the steps. So maybe you can practice it. I don't know what you guys think about putting them in breakout rooms right now, but so it's okay to ask for space from people we love. And we feel like, especially with people that we're living with, that we have to solve the problem immediately. Like, my boundary was crossed, I feel disrespected, I need to feel respected right now, you know, and it's not always the best way to approach them is in the moment. So what we need to often do is just to take a step back, like notice that we're having this reaction, the oil or gas light is coming on, and often in that place where the oil or gas light is coming on is not always the best time to have a conversation, because our limbic system is engaged and we really need that prefrontal cortex to do that. So some things that we can do are to take some deep breaths. So I'm going to give you an exercise right now. We'll do it together if you're all game for it. It's a breath that is 5 on the count of 5 on the inhale, and then we hold for 5, and then 5 on the exhale, and hold for 5 on the exhale, after the exhale. And we're going to use our arms to do it. And this is actually an immunity boosting breath. So it'll help, protect our lungs. So if you're game, go ahead and place your hands over your heart. And as you're ready, take a nice deep breath in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more time. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. So just notice how you're feeling in this moment. It helps to create a little bit of equilibrium and also helps us breathe deeper into our lungs. So that's just one thing, but it's really important. You can just take 3 deep breaths without doing like counting, but just take deep breaths into the belly. And also it's good reason why we can't say no. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Is that why we can't say no? So we do another word cloud right here. So why do you think that you can't say no? So that's the word cloud for this is, why do you think that you can't say no? So we can just type that in the chat. So you're gonna text our minds Matt 835.
All right, we'll share my screen now.
Thank you. Catherine's gonna. Okay, yeah. What happens when your boundaries are disrespected or not met? Unclear. So just take a minute. So unsafe, yeah, it can feel really unsafe. Confusing. Anxiety, absolutely. You feel overextended, angry, scared, confused. Yeah, this is all so true. Unhappy, broken, disrespected. Panicked. Yeah, like this feeling of panic inside. Anger. Closed off, sad, disappointed, alone. Yeah, so real. Upset, unhappy. Yeah, these are great. Depressed, misunderstood, absolutely. Alone, anxiety, yeah. So this is what happens to us when our boundaries are unclear. So we have to really know, misunderstood, disappointed, scared. It can be really scary. So this is why it's so important for us to recognize what our values are, what our boundaries are, so that we're clear. So once we have clarity, go ahead, Alyssa, or Catherine to the next slide.
All right, let me see.
Thank you.
Stop
sharing. This is why it's so important to be clear on what your boundaries are, so that we don't get stuck in the muck right? Because it's so easy for us to go to that second arrow, to that harmful, like, what's wrong with me? Something's wrong with me. I'm broken. And it can be really scary and overwhelming. So we want to be able to come from a place of empowerment. And that's what boundaries can do. It can help us feel empowered and that we have certain agency. We have agency over our lives, right? So I just want to, because we only have a couple minutes left, I thought we could do a closing exercise called Just Like Me. And then we'll continue this conversation next week about boundaries, because Alyssa and I were like, we can talk for a whole 6 weeks just on boundaries, like 12 weeks just on boundaries and just on values. So really appreciate all your participation. So we're going to do something called Just Like Me. So as you're ready, just an invitation to either close your eyes or drop them down, maybe even placing a hand on your heart or a hand on your belly so you can feel your breath coming in and out, because it can be agitating to have just talked about, boundaries being unclear. So just placing that hand on the heart is like giving ourselves a little hug. I'm going to invite you to think of a loved one, bring a loved one to mind. It can be a friend or a family member, whatever works for you. And as you're bringing that person to mind, this person has a body just like me. This person has feelings and thoughts and emotions just like me. This person has felt sad, disappointed, frustrated, and angry just like me. This person has felt suffering, physical, emotional, just like me. This person has felt happy and joyful, excited, connected, just like me. This person wants to be free from suffering, just like me. This person wants to feel safe and healthy and loved, just like me. And this person wishes to be happy, just like me. And then sending some wishes of strength to this person. So just wishing them strength and support to navigate difficulties that may arise in their life. I wish them to be happy and safe and loved, just like me. And then opening your eyes and coming back. Thank you all for showing up so bravely today. And thank you for sharing your truths with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all for being here and continuing to be here. I see so many familiar faces and some new ones too. So just before we send you off to enjoy the rest of your day, we just want to bring your attention to a couple of announcements. So I know a few people did have some trouble with the joining today because we did establish a new link and meeting password. That password is going to stay the same unless we have any issues. So I just want to let you know that every Monday in the newsletter, we'll send out the link and the password for people to join. And we ask that if you want to invite a friend, to just ask them to subscribe to the newsletter. Or for the calendar invite, I think most of you guys should be on there, and the calendar invite has the meeting password and the details. You should have the ability to invite your friends or family, whoever you want to invite to the meeting by yourself. If you have any issues inviting people or sharing, let us know. But the reason why we're doing this is to abide by the best practices around using Zoom and privacy and security. So I do apologize for those that had a little bit of trouble joining, but feel free to reach out directly if you have any other issues or questions around sharing the meeting details and how we can make sure it's just more easily accessible, because we do want teens to join nationwide and other people to continue to join us through the rest of our few weeks together. And then next, Corrine is still holding the circle group, and we'll be sending those details out in the recap email, along with our partner, This Is My Brave, still holding auditions, our end of year survey. Thank you so much for all of you who already completed that. We have a lot of responses and we're learning a lot from you. So please ask your other club members to do that, along with, of course, your club renewal. We do this on an annual basis just so we have an idea of which clubs are continuing on, and hopefully it's all of you guys, but we really need that updated leader information in case anything changed, or sponsor information. And then for our upcoming office hours with Emerson, who is Emerson still on the phone?
Yes, I'm still here.
All right, and so Emerson can tell you a little bit more about our office hours and our new initiative for Pride Month.
All right, so hey everybody, I'm Emerson and I'm a student intern. And one thing that I've been working on this semester is creating a Pride campaign that will take place over the next coming weeks. May is Mental Health Awareness Month and June is LGBTQ plus Pride Month. So I thought I would kind of combine those two monthly celebrations into one, where I've created some virtual kind of posts that will describe different aspects of the queer community, and also spotlight some really key people who have furthered, the mission of each part of the queer community, whether it's in acceptance or advocacy or just appreciation for what it means to be in that community. And so I'll be holding the office hours with the OMM team next Monday from 3 to 4 p.m. And I would love for any and everybody to come on to learn about, some ways to raise awareness and some ways to be an ally to these communities. And it'll be open for discussion and questions and just learning.
Thanks, Emerson. Really excited. Yeah. All righty, everyone. Well, have a good rest of your day. Thank you, Alyssa and Corrine. We will see you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.